If the Lions are the best the NFC has, is the NFC screwed against the likes of the Buffalo Bills? That's coming up on today's episode of NFL Squad.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to this week's NFL Squad. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, learn how to speak English, and join us as we get ready to go over another wild week that's about to happen across the National Football League. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5. And as always, we are going to go over the best games coming up this weekend. We're going to have a little bit of holiday fun here on this NFL Squad episode, but we're going to kick it all off with something that Tony Wiggins and I actually just talked about for Locked On NFL for Wednesday. So we want even more conversation about how the NFC may just not stack up against the AFC this year. You can check that out, but we're going to dive deep into this, and we're going to do it thanks to our NFL squad. Landon McCool of Locked On Cowboys continuing to come through where his team that he covers is not coming through, unfortunately. Yeah. Cody Rourke, usually behind the scenes here when we're doing this the NFC style, but Locked On Broncos host coming through here for us. Aaron Freeman, Locked On Falcons, no matter what his name tag says. Locked On Ravens host Kevin Ostreicher, Mike Debate, Locked On Patriots, John Butchko, Locked On Jets. We've got a very, very solid NFL squad here this week. And gentlemen, we're going to kick this all off with Detroit Lions, Buffalo Bills. The Detroit Lions have surprised and impressed a lot of people this season, especially with how they've been able to stay resilient, rebound after injuries. But the question now is the injuries may just be too much. And after falling to the Buffalo Bills, it's looking more and more like the NFC just can't keep up with the NFC. And Cody, let's actually kick it off with you, my friend. How realistic is that? Can the NFC really challenge the best in the AFC teams like the Buffalo Bills when it comes to Super Bowl projections?
Yeah, no, I think they can. And I think everybody was, for the most part, at least over here in Denver, was thinking that the matchup we saw on Sunday between Detroit and Buffalo was a little bit of an early Super Bowl preview. Sorry to Kevin Ostreicher, who's got, his Ravens have Super Bowl ambitions here. I think they're the only ones right now. Denver's obviously in the playoff mix, but that's not really the realistic outlook for them right now. So I would say the Buffalo Bills have been this team, though. One week they look like the best team in football. They look unstoppable. They turn it on. And then they look human one week. And look, not to kind of discredit them in any way, shape, or form. Like we were literally talking about it last week. Josh Allen had a game where he accounted for 6 total touchdowns, 0 turnovers, and they still lost the game. That goes to show that they are human in the aspect that their defense can give up points, and their defense certainly can give up some big plays. I think this past week we saw that between Detroit and them. It was a fun shootout. I enjoyed it. I still think the NFC can compete with the AFC.
I have to. I don't want to get too deep into this conversation myself because, like I said, I just got done talking with Tony Wiggins about this. But I am curious from a weak division standpoint. Aaron Freeman, Locked On Falcons, the NFC South, not the worst division in football, according to our conversation last week. That honor goes to the AFC South, and then the NFC West is second place. But the NFC South is certainly maybe 2.5. But here's the thing I look about when I talk about the NFC North, and I talk about the Detroit Lions, specifically the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, because a lot of people are pointing to these records, and look how strong the NFC North is. The NFC North played 2 divisions this year, just like every other division did. They played the AFC South, and they played the NFC West. Right. And when you look at all 3 of these teams, their biggest quality win comes against their own division. And we all know how division matchups go. So to me in the NFL, you got to take your own division games out of the conversation because the reason – possibly that this division has such a heavy double-digit win team stack is because they're playing 2 of the worst divisions in the NFL. Aaron Freeman, how much should that weigh into hype? Because I'm never asking a team to apologize for their schedule, right? Their schedule is what it is. But when it comes to hyping up a team, how much should who have they beaten, quote unquote, come into the conversation?
I think it's a great point you make, David, there, because you do want to sort of, when you measure, okay, who's really got it, right? You want to measure the quality of opponents, right? Like, did you beat anybody notable? And a lot of times you'll see a team racking up a bunch of wins, and then you're like, they didn't, the toughest team they beat was like Arizona. The toughest team they beat was like, I can't even think of another Midland
Dallas.
team or something, the Saints or something like that. And it's just like,
Dallas.
those aren't, terrible teams or whatever, but like you're probably not as good as people hype you up to be. And that's always the interesting thing about the schedule, where before the season, we sort of say, oh, this team has a really soft schedule. And then the season plays out and the schedule looks a lot harder. Like I know the Falcons went into the season with like the second easiest schedule in the league. And I checked the numbers. I think they right now have the 7th hardest schedule in the league based off a lot of teams like Cody's Broncos and other teams that, were much better than I think a lot of people thought they would be. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to some of those things. So I do think you're right that, taking the division games out of it, because we know those division games, you can have a place, one loss Chiefs team going up against the Raiders and basically win on like a serendipitous, block field goal or whatever it is in those games and whatnot. But I think when you take the outside the division games, like those are I think, really the true measure of a team skill.
Yeah, and that's the point I was trying to make. So I'm glad somebody agrees with me, because obviously I agree with me. So I'm glad somebody else also agrees with me. And to Aaron's point, the Washington Commanders are one of those teams, right? If you had the Washington Commanders on your schedule, picking number 2 overall this year's NFL draft, that certainly made your strength of schedule a little bit easier. Right now, if you're stacking and racking by just record alone, they're picking 20th in the NFL draft. That's quite the chump for one team to make it one season. Kevin Ostreicher, Locked On Ravens. Here's the question I want to ask you, because Philadelphia Eagles looked pretty decent, right, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are obviously one of the quote-unquote better teams in the AFC. The Ravens are right there, and if they can figure out how to really marry this Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry dynamic and get their defense fully rolling, certainly a contender in the AFC. So if you're talking about the Ravens going to the Super Bowl, facing the Detroit Lions, understanding some of the deficiencies that they're taking because of injuries, and or facing the Eagles, which of these NFC teams are you more scared of right now?
I mean, I think with the injuries that Detroit has and with the way that Philly looked against Baltimore just a couple of weeks ago, I'd probably say the Ravens would prefer Detroit. And that's not, me saying, no, Detroit's this terrible team. Buffalo's a good team, right? And I know there's that whole conversation about, big losses and how do you kind of assess that against weaker wins. But to me, I feel like both the Eagles and the Lions are still top Super Bowl contenders. And I'm not putting the Lions out of contention, but now they have Minnesota breathing down their neck. And it's crazy. We're talking about the possibility of a team that's been as dominant as Detroit in so many spots this season, maybe being the 5 seed here when it comes down to it. And I know that we had the conversation last week about weak divisions and should they be changing up things, this, that, and the other. But from a Ravens perspective, at least, you start to get down and look, I've had a couple of these seasons recently where your injury report looks like a CVS receipt. It's just every single week you're adding on like 3 separate names. It's terrible. And it takes away really quality seasons. Like, where would this Detroit team be with Aiden Hutchinson back in the fold? Or what if David Montgomery was healthy for the stretch run? What does that team look like? But to me, you look at kind of the weakening NFC from an AFC perspective, and it's almost like, is the Super Bowl the AFC championship? Or in the NFC, is Super Bowl the NFC championship? Those are conversations that happen every single season. And with Detroit kind of being this favorite coming in and they have all these dominant wins, it just feels like they're just getting weaker and weaker every week. And that has to play a part in how you look at them moving forward.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, there's a host here that covers the team that knows a thing or two about an injury really derailing a season. And of course, we're talking about 2023 when Aaron Rodgers went down. And John Butchko, I want to ask you this question. Looking at the AFC, talking about them being the much stronger conference, now the MVP race is kind of considered to be really maybe a 2 or 3 horse race. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, but Josh Allen is, I think, most people's favorite. Is Josh Allen the clear and away favorite, or do you think there is an opportunity here for a guy like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, if that ankle doesn't completely erase the rest of his season, to take that award still?
I think there is an opportunity for Lamar Jackson to get back into the race. The last 3 weeks of the season that will always tell us a lot. But I think right now the favorite is Josh Allen, because if you look at the way he's carrying this Buffalo team on his back, as you mentioned, you look at their defense has not played well the last 2 weeks. I look at it, we talked a little bit earlier about how, Josh Allen accounted for 6 touchdowns and they lost to the Rams. I kind of look at it the other way. I look at how bad their defense played in that game, and they still had a shot in the fourth quarter because of the way Josh Allen played. I also think, when you talk about MVP, you also have to put yourself in the minds of the voters. I think a lot of times voters focus on narratives, and for Josh Allen, the narrative is the Buffalo Bills traded his number 1 receiver this offseason to the Houston Texans in Stephon Diggs. This was supposed to be kind of a reset year for Buffalo. They lost some key guys on their defense. They were trying to kind of reset their salary cap this year. And yet they're still at the top of they're still at the top of the AFC. I know Kansas City's probably going to have the 1 seed, but I think Buffalo is probably the most likely team to go to the Super Bowl right now. And this isn't what's supposed to be a down year. So I think right now it favors Josh Allen. I do think that there's still an opportunity, though. There's still 3 weeks left in the season for that narrative to change.
Yeah, look, I will admit to everybody here and publicly on this show, coming in preseason, I had Jets, Chiefs, Ravens at least ahead of the Bills. And I really expected the Bills to regress back to the mean, but here they are, potentially the best team in the National Football League. And Josh Allen, just the gift that keeps on giving. And we're going to hand out some gifts here on NFL Squad as we get into our next topic conversation. Holiday time, what gift would you give to the team you cover, or what gift would you give to a team you don't cover to derail their future efforts? Hopefully we'll have some fun with that coming up next. Today's episode of NFL Squad brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle all of the NFL action this weekend and every weekend remaining this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers of FanDuel, you bet $5 and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, maybe you're watching your favorite team, maybe you're watching your favorite team's rival, whatever it is, you get a hunch, you can check out the latest stats, you can view the play-by-play, and you can get so much more information on the exact same page or the exact same app that you can then place that bet, or you can make bets on games before the game kicks off, like the Washington Commanders, who are 3.5-point underdogs against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are trying to clinch the NFC East this weekend. Either way, go to FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. This episode is also brought to you in part by the College Football Playoff. It is that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and the high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports' coverage of College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Continuing today's NFL Squad, we got a squad full of NFL experts coming through here to talk about the hard-hitting news. What gift would you leave under the tree for another team to help or hurt them? Landon McCool, Locked On Cowboys. I'm hoping you come through with some Grinch energy. I'm hoping. I don't know where you're going to go, but your team that you cover, the Dallas Cowboys, or any other team that hurt them, whose gift or what gift are you leaving under which tree?
This is a gift for the team specifically and its fans, right? And it's the gift of a divorce from Jerry Jones at this point. Ooh. It's the Jones family. It's just gotten to the point now where the trust is eroded, and almost everything that they say, whether it's wrong or not at this point, is just being kind of judged side-eyed. So I just think at this point, I mean, this is not going to happen. And there's in no world will this gift be received or be opened. But if I could, wrap it up, I would give the Cowboys and their fans the opportunity to kind of start with a fresh slate and see if they can make do with the new ownership, no matter, if it's an oil wildcatter or not. I think, we could still probably find somebody willing to spend some money like Jerry.
Brother, that is the kind of gift that makes you believe that Santa Claus exists, which, of course, he does.
He does.
He does. You don't know who's watching. Mike Debate, Locked On Patriots. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was gonna say, what is that meme? It's like a divorce from Jerry Jones or a dragon, and Santa goes, "Okay, what dragon do you want?" That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about here.
I love it. Maybe Locked On Patriots. You're up, man. Which gift you giving, and which direction are you going here?
Well, if you're 3-11, you're not giving anybody else gifts to derail them. You're derailing yourself automatically. Look, you know that little mind eraser that Will Smith used in Men in Black? I'd like to get one of those for Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo, because it seems like every single week he's walking back a comment that he made at the podium. Look, part of being a head coach in this league is knowing that you're the steward of this team's identity, and the things you say are going to be used against you in the court of public opinion. Better or worse, Bill Belichick was a master at that. On to Cincinnati, you always make fun of it. It's a joke, and I think a lot of people love to do that. But look, one thing that you didn't see Bill Belichick do was either throw his teammates or his coaches or his players under the bus. And I don't think that's what Gerard is doing. I know him personally. He's not the type of mean-spirited guy that's going to do that, but he's transparent. And with that transparency comes responsibility. When you start saying things like, oh, we're going to burn some cash in the offseason, and then you don't do it. Our players are soft, and then take it back and say, well, they're not soft. Or this past week when our beat had the temerity to question him on whether or not Drake May should have gone for a quarterback sneak when they were 1 yard out. And he says, well, you said it, I didn't. It kind of throws his offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, under the bus. So if we could get Gerard Mayo to have that type of mind erasing capability, yeah, it'd save us all an awful lot of copy when it comes to writing about what Gerard said and what he actually meant. That's what I think would be a good gift for the New England Patriots this year.
Yeah, Mike debate, temerity, coming through with. I mean, this is a football show, man.
I love it.
Temerity means excessive confidence or boldness. By the way, yes, I had to Google it. I know it. I was like,
Thank you.
What does temerity mean? Way too smart for me. Cody Rourke, Locked On Broncos. It's your turn. Secret Santa's up. Who's getting your gift?
Well, if I had to do a little stocking stuffer for the Broncos, it'd be a run game for Bo Nix. But I'm gonna go for the NFL people here, right? I'm gonna give the NFL people a gift. I love the conversation you guys had last week about whether or not the NFL should maybe change the playoff format. If they're going to add an additional regular season game in the future, here's my idea. Add an additional wild card spot, right? Eliminate first-round buys in the playoffs. Give teams 2 buys in the regular season. And that way, when the playoffs begin, you got the first seed against the 8th seed, the second seed against the 7th seed, 3rd versus 6th, 4th versus 5th. Make it fun. Like the college football playoff format has expanded. Why can't the NFL do it again? 7 teams? Okay, I get it. But 1 through 8, eliminate the first-round buys. I guarantee you, that's going to be fun to watch. That's my gift to the NFL people.
I mean, that, and I got Peter Bukowski coming in saying, as long as the Packers get a home game, he's all for it.
Depends on EPA with Peter. Like I feel like we could play a drinking game with Peter Bukowski. Every time he says EPA or CPOE, we can just take a drink. We'll be done before 10 minutes.
You know what? I love the idea, and I want to be clear here. I love every idea that everybody's come through here, but nobody's being a troll to another team yet. Landing a little bit of a troll move, the Jerry Jones thing, but nobody's being a troll to another team. So I'm going to go next. I gave you guys 3 opportunities. I'm giving the Philadelphia Eagles a 3-year extension for Nick Sirianni with a no firing clause involved.
Yeah,
there's a no firing clause with that Nick Sirianni contract. That's my.
It feels like a gift for us more than anything, David.
That's definitely a gift for the NFC East. Absolutely. I'm hoping to see that gift in real time this weekend out there in Northwest Stadium. So I got the troll moves kicking. Let's see, John Butchko, Locked On Jets. You going to continue, or are you gonna make me the only Grinch out here?
No, this is a gift for the Jets. We're going to give them an office. We're going to give them, in this office, it's going to be a desk with a phone that doesn't dial out. We're going to, I'm kind of dating myself, but you think back to like the early seasons of The Office, a computer that's not hooked up to the internet. Instead, you have a Word document opened, not up to the internet, and that's where we're putting Woody Johnson. And Woody Johnson can make all of his moves from this office. He can dial out, make all the crazy trades he wants, like look online, figure out what he wants to do. We're going to keep this guy out of any decisions because this guy has made more damaging moves in the last 2-3 years than like any owner has done in recent. Even Jerry Jones. I mean, even Jerry Jones is impressed by the way Woody Johnson's the destruction Woody Johnson's done to this team. So Woody will continue to think he's in charge, and I think we could actually pull this off. I think Woody could actually think that he's making these moves from the office because that's kind of the level of self-awareness Woody Johnson has. So that's my gift to the Jets, and I think that's the kind of gift that could end this 14-year playoff drought the Jets are on.
I may or may not know somebody in the Jets front office. I'm gonna have to pitch that idea I'd pitch that idea to them. See if we
Tell
see if we
Woody
can
his
make that happen.
staplers downstairs, right? So
I love that we fired two owners. We fired 2 owners already.
Love
in
it.
this segment. This is the season of giving, and we're just
he's
firing people.
He's not fired. He's just in an office where he.
Oh, that's
can't
true. That's
contact
true. Yeah,
anyone. He
I
can
guess
still
some
be the
apologies.
owner,
He's
just-
not fired.
He's not in charge anymore.
Technically,
Do we
he
want to
has a
help
job.
Patricia Traina out with the other New York franchise? Do we want to help her out in any way, shape, or form?
we should.
You know what? She didn't come through, so no, we're not going to do that. Aaron Freeman, locked on Kirk Sember. Is Arthur Blank gonna survive this exercise?
Arthur Blank is going to be fine. He's going to be fine. The Atlanta Falcons had control of their destiny. They lost it. And so for this Christmas, I need them to get it back. And I need my guy, Cooper Rush, to step up this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm gifting the Dallas Cowboys and Cooper Rush, one of the, since Landon went sort of into the abstract world of a divorce, you wrap up a divorce. I'm going to the fantasy world, going back to the video games, right? And I'm getting the Starman from Super Mario Brothers that makes you invincible, right? So I'm going to give that to Cooper Rush so he can be invincible this weekend against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, beat the Bucs, and give the Falcons just a sliver of a hope that they will ultimately fumble away, as they always do. But just a sliver of hope, just to buy me a little bit more time on Locked On Falcons to buy into the belief that the Atlanta Falcons can actually win the NFC South.
Can I remind everyone the last time Aaron said something nice about the Cowboys, we beat Washington, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
true.
David, is that right? I can't remember.
We got receipts.
Aaron has a knack for predicting some NFC East shakeups involved shakeups.
Cooper Rush, he's my guy. He always comes through for me.
Do you know what he said
Aaron's talking
verbatim?
good about the Cowboys, I'm listening. That's all I'm saying.
He said it verbatim. He said, Cooper Kupp, Cooper Rush, it doesn't matter. The Cowboys are going to win. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, and then I got fired for a week. It was a lot of fun. I'll tell you, putting a 40 burger on the Chargers and then getting boat raced by the Cowboys would be the most Buccaneers thing to do. So, I mean, look, don't count it out. Kevin Ostraker, Locked On Ravens. You're I don't know if I'm in your backyard, you're in my backyard, but we're pretty close. What are you putting under the tree this year?
Man, I think I'm going to give a gift to Lamar Jackson here, and that's going to be a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and hopefully that comes this week because the Ravens are 1-8 in their last 9 games against the Steelers. It has not been a rivalry at this point. Like it's the Steelers show, and that's what it is. The Ravens have to take it back. And so Lamar, he has never played in both games. He started for 6 seasons. He's never played in both games against Pittsburgh in his career. He also has only played 1 time at M&T Bank Stadium against the Steelers in his 6-year career as a starter. That was back in 2020 when there were barely any fans in the stadium. So Lamar has never played in front of a full stadium of Ravens fans in his entire 6-year career as a starter. 7 years, obviously, he's been in the league. So I'm gifting that to Lamar Jackson. And what better way to make that happen than to troll the Steelers? And I'm not going to take credit for this. Obviously, we talked about this pre-show. Deontay Johnson, why not send him back over to Pittsburgh, right? He's a good locker room fit. He's a nice locker room guy. Pittsburgh needs a wide receiver. Who knows if George Pickens is going to play this weekend. And if he doesn't play, I don't know if I'm trusting Ben Skoranek to go out and put up 150 yards on the Ravens secondary. So, you get a nice little veteran presence. Yeah. Now it's going to happen. Now we're going to flip this, but
that's practically your prediction at this point.
Yeah,
Kevin.
Exactly. That's my bold prediction for the week. Just the opposite. But let's send Deontay Johnson back to Pittsburgh, and if anything, he'll provide George Pickens. And look, they know each other. They were teammates just a year ago. It's kind of crazy, all of this movement with Deontay Johnson. This is a guy that's been in Baltimore for 2 months and has already caused more drama than I remember in Baltimore in the last 5 years. So I think Pittsburgh could benefit from a guy like that. This is if Kenny Pickett was still on the Steelers, it would be 5-year extension, no trade clause, no out clause for Kenny Pickett. But unfortunately, we're a year too late on that one.
I love Kevin channeling his inner Tim Watley here. You're giving back the label maker. What are you doing?
There you go.
You're
Exactly.
re-gifting, Kevin.
I actually think the Jets may have secretly traded for Deontay Johnson and he accidentally flew to Baltimore. So that's kind of like on brand for the Jets this season.
Well, we can make that right, John. We can make that right.
Yeah,
send him over there.
Make that happen. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Baltimore Ravens, one of the bigger matchups this weekend. We've got Saturday NFL football, guys, and the greatest part is I've got a home game to cover, so I can actually watch those games. I don't have to travel while all those great games are going on. So we'll talk about those and whether or not Jaden Daniels can shake up the NFC East this weekend. Coming up next on NFC Squad, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love watching the game, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the easiest, the most exciting way for you to play daily fantasy, whether it's football, basketball, or any of your other favorite sports. Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and they make them brighter. And you can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Those are, that's an amazing multiplier there. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy for you to cash out. You can get your money in as little as 15 minutes. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Build your squad of 2 to 6 players, make your projections, and get your money, because you can get, that's right, $50 instantly when you play $5 with that offer. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me. My wife loves to find out about that type of information. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is that subscription tracker. My son also benefiting that. Subscribe to Amazon Prime for a year. Didn't even know it. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We are wrapping up this week's NFL squad episode, and I wish I could tell you that those examples I gave in that Rocket Money ad read, guys, were just for the ad read. They're not just for the ad read. And I'm actually waiting for Rocket Money to say, stop buying Jordans. But I have this beautiful shelf over here that needs more shoes. Anyway, so
I asked it to cancel my Netflix subscription when I saw that Aaron Rodgers Enigma documentary pop up. I had to.
Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, John Butchko, Mike debates. Get ready, because we've got bold predictions to wrap up today's episode coming from you two fine gentlemen. So you have some time to ideate those things. Look, Jaden Daniels is going to try to shake up the NFC East. By winning their last 2 games, the Washington Commanders are still in the NFC East race. The Philadelphia Eagles needed to win, needed the Commanders to lose this past week to the New Orleans Saints. Commanders almost did it, but they didn't do it. So they're still in this thing. And if the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Washington Commanders in Landover, Maryland, they will clinch the NFC East. So obviously Jaden is looking to prevent that from happening as much as possible. I'm going to turn this over to Landon McCool. You've seen both these teams. Your team that you cover has beaten one of them. Who do you think is going to come out of this contest? Who do you think is going to win the division?
My heart wants to believe that Washington will win this, because if I had to choose between my 2 most hated rivals, I'm going to choose the one that has, my former coach and half of my former team on it. Honestly, I think that there's a good chance. I mean, there's every opportunity that Washington can come into this game and play hot early, score a bunch of points, put Philadelphia on their back foot, which is a game script that they're very, very used to. I mean, obviously this is something that happens with Philly all the time, right? But if Washington can come out and really press the issue early, and make this a shootout, I think that there's a chance that Washington can pull away from this game and at least win the game. I don't know if that means that ultimately they win the division, because I do think that Philly may still be the stronger team. I think Philly is probably at this point in an argument to be one of the best teams in the NFL. But I do think that there is every opportunity, because it's a division game. I think Washington is, as far as stadiums to play in, the most difficult physical stadium to play in because of the footing and everything there. And I think what it can do is it can really cause chaos. And so there's every opportunity that Washington drags Philly down to their level and then beats up on them at home. And I certainly could see that happening.
Yeah, and look, you never know when toilet water is just going to dump all over Eagles fans and diminish the ability for Eagles fans to cheer for their team. I'm curious, because Landon, I'm not going to lie, man, like, I have never this year was the first time I saw a Cowboys Commanders game where I was like, okay, we're not in Dallas, even though I didn't fly anywhere.
That's true.
So that's very impressive. I'm also very curious to see if this is the first Eagles Commanders game in Maryland I can watch live that is not an Eagles home game. I'm very curious.
That'll be interesting to see. I bet you get Washington fans out. I honestly, I think that there's, I mean, look, I don't cover the team, but the way that the team feels like it's turned around now that it has, these rivalries become exciting again. And that's what happens is I remember when the Cowboys were bad forever and ever and ever, not this season, but previous. And when they started getting good again, the rivalries specifically got exciting again. It became awesome to talk about the Eagles. It became awesome to talk about playing playing Washington. So I think that same thing is going to happen now that Washington's sort of bouncing back as a franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're at the epicenter of another big game this weekend. Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting the Dallas Cowboys. My favorite stadium to visit, to be quite honest with you, every season. So I'm pumped for that. But the Buccaneers are road favorites, 3.5 points. What are the chances here, Landon, that that your Dallas Cowboys you cover can help out Aaron Freeman this weekend?
I really hope we can. I mean, only for Aaron's sake. Honestly, I don't necessarily have any designs to win the NFC East, or obviously we're well out of that sort of thing. And at this point, maybe it's better for the Cowboys to not intentionally, but lose these games in order to kind of help their own draft stock. But I don't know. I mean, you watch the way Tampa's played, especially last week against a really good Chargers team, and just took it to them. It does feel like it would be the most Tampa thing to lose to Dallas, especially since Dallas seemingly can't beat anyone who isn't the New York Giants at home. So I mean, I certainly think the one thing that the Cowboys have had going for them recently is that their defense has played a lot better these last few weeks. And their run game has been really, really good. So it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain that now that they're playing a good team like Tampa. And if they can, maybe they can pull this off and can keep the ball away from Baker Mayfield and pull off a win, but I'm certainly not betting on it.
Yeah, now Aaron Freeman, your Atlanta Falcons are hosting the New York Giants. So I'm not going to ask you if they can win that game, because they certainly can win that game. I'm going to ask you, Raheem Morris kind of sounds like he's not that fully committed to Kirk Cousins, right? But he also said that Kirk Cousins was brought in to help this team win now, and you're still in the division race, which would hint that maybe Kirk Cousins is probably going to start against the New York Giants. Do you feel the same way? And my question is it time for Penn Sember to begin this weekend?
I'm apathetic to the whole quarterback situation, basically, at this point in time. That's, I've been beaten down by this team and Kirk Cousins' struggles these last couple of weeks. And there's a part of me that's excited to see what Michael Penix can do and, start the clock on the future of the team. But I don't have any expectations that Michael Penix is going to come in and sort of be the Lisan Al-Gaib, the savior of this football team, and immediately pick up after basically playing one preseason game and 3 drives in garbage time this season and be like, oh, I'm instantly going to suddenly challenge Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix and all these other guys for who's the best rookie quarterback in this draft class. So, but I think it's obviously we're at a point where the future is now. So I'm looking forward to it, but I have no expectations that a quarterback change is going to do anything to move the needle for the Falcons down this home stretch. But we'll see if they can take care of business against the Giants, whoever the quarterback is.
Yeah, and personally, I don't believe the Falcons are going to go to Michael Penix at all this season, at least until the NFC South division is lost. If that becomes a fact, then maybe you see Michael Penix this year, a la Desmond Ridder a little while back. But until that happens, I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the guy. Kevin Ostreicher, we've already talked a little bit about the Ravens and Steelers. My question for you is this: if Lamar Jackson cannot beat the Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend, are his MVP chances dead?
I would probably say, especially if Josh Allen wins again, I would probably say so. I mean, again, at this point in time, I think it's a 2-man race, in my opinion, between Lamar and Josh Allen. But the thing is, when Lamar has lost, Josh Allen has had big moments. For example, Lamar had the stinker against Pittsburgh the first time around, and Josh Allen was beating Kansas City, putting the Superman cape on and saying, hey, I'm going to end this voodoo magic myself, and then took it in the end zone for the win. Or when Lamar really didn't play well against the Eagles. Josh Allen was balling out again in San Francisco, and the Bills just blew him out. Like that's the type of thing that we're seeing here. But I think that with the MVP race, you look at the stats. Both players are having incredible years. Lamar Jackson beats Josh Allen in every statistical category except for rushing touchdowns. And there's multiple other factors in this. Record obviously plays a role. Division, if you win the division or not, plays a role. That all factors into the equation. So I'm just not going to sit here and say that this isn't over. And I've seen that a lot this week where I think, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, these are two guys in the race. And if Lamar loses, I would probably look 6 losses for an MVP. I'm not sure the numbers behind that or if, how often that's happened in league history before. But you look at the Bills schedule and there's a chance that this team probably goes undefeated unless, they're not playing for seeding anymore, in which they rest the guy. And then that has a factor. But a big division win because recency bias is real. The Ravens boat raced the Bills in September. Josh Allen played terribly and, doesn't seem like that game's even talked about anymore because obviously this is a what have you done for me now lately league. September and December is not lately. That's old news at this point. So if Lamar picks up a big win against the Steelers, he beats the Texans on Christmas Day, the Ravens go undefeated, maybe that'll help his chances. But I'm expecting if the Ravens win and the Bills win, they keeping pace with each other, I'd expect a pretty photo finish MVP race.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Lamar struggles against the Steelers again, Josh Allen hosting the New England Patriots favored by 14.5 points certainly has the opportunity to ball out on the same weekend that Lamar Jackson struggles. Final game prediction or game preview we're going to have here. Cody Rourke, Denver Broncos. This is the first game we're all going to get to watch this week, being led by Offensive Rookie of the Year runner-up Bo Nix, visiting the Los Angeles Chargers. Sorry, Broncos fans. Look, the Broncos can clinch a playoff spot this weekend with the Dolphins loss, Bengals loss, and Colts loss, or they can just beat the Chargers on Thursday night and get in the playoffs. What's it going to take for that to happen?
Well, look, I think so much. I teased it a little bit earlier. If I could give the Broncos a gift, it would be a run game for Bo Nix. I mean, Bo Nix right now, if you pull up the Broncos rushing yards, Javonte Williams leads, but you look at rushing first downs, Bo Nix leads the team in rushing first downs by a landslide in comparison. And he's pretty much primarily their offense. They only had 193 net yards of offense against the Colts this past week. Bo Nix accounted for 153 of those 193 there, and they still found a way to put up 31 total points. It was a weird game there. The defense is playing really well. You got a short week against Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who are looking to respond after the Buccaneers came through and mollywopped them. And now this is it. Like, this is the Broncos' first opportunity since the Super Bowl 50 season to make it to the postseason. Sean Payton has been very much along the lines of saying, hey, if we are going to be who we are, we have to take care of business. You get a win on Thursday Night Football, you're in the playoffs for the first time, and you're not looking behind you with two other games remaining against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs to round out the year. Take care of business, then you don't got to worry about those other 2 games really at the end, unless at that point you're just playing for seeding. So run the football here. This Chargers team, they've had 2 games in the last 4 games where they've given up 200 yards on the ground. The Broncos simply cannot run the ball. Something's got to balance out here. We'll see if they could do that.
Yeah, the Broncos are another team, man. When they drafted Bo Nix, I was like, oh, so we're just drafting quarterbacks to draft quarterbacks here. And I did not think it was going to work. And the Broncos and the Commanders showing everybody why every draft season, if you don't have a quarterback, everybody's going to mock you a quarterback. And it certainly matters. So we'll see if the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix can handle their business here on Thursday night. And we're going to wrap this thing up. Mike DeBay, John Blitchko, you've been warned. You've had time to prep. So I expect these to be some spicy Aaron Freeman style bold predictions this weekend. Mike DeBate, we'll start with you. Locked on Patriots. What's your bold prediction for Week 16?
Well, I know Kevin still holds out hope that Lamar Jackson is going to be in this MVP race, but even if he does ball out the last 3 games of the season, my bold prediction is that Josh Allen wraps up the MVP race this weekend. If I am pulling on a Christmas theme, and Die Hard I believe to be a Christmas movie, I think that Hans Gruber would look at this and say, he'd look at this, David, and he'd say, you ask for miracles, David. I give you the New England Patriots defense. That's exactly what Josh Allen is loving about this weekend. The Patriots cannot stop. They can't make a tackle, and they cannot cover mobile quarterbacks. And those are 2 things that the Buffalo Bills bring to the table, and they bring them well. Joe Brady is licking his chops right now, taking a look at what this New England Patriots defense has regressed to. I think Josh Allen looks for a big week this week. And even if they do find a way to control this thing on the ground, with the exception of Christian Gonzalez, who can only cover one man at a time, and Christian's been great. I want to give him a tip of the cap to all the Patriots fans listening out there. Everyone knows how much I love Christian and the work he's done this year. They don't have another perimeter corner that's capable of covering Buffalo's weapons, and they're simply just not equipped on that offensive line to be able to, defensive line, excuse me, to be able to contain Josh Allen. So I think the MVP race is over this week. Josh Allen puts up huge numbers, and he takes it home.
Congratulations to all of you who have Josh Allen on your fantasy rosters on your playoff win. It's about to happen. And my favorite part of that bold prediction, didn't have to Google any of the words. John Butchko, Locked On Jets. What you got for week 16?
I'll go with this. The Jets will be ahead with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter against the Rams. On paper, it looks like a mismatch. Rams 3-game winning streak, Jets 4-10. A couple factors in this game. First of all, East Coast game with a 1:00 kick, which means it's a 10 Pacific kick for the Rams players. It's supposed to be bad weather. I don't think it's supposed to be any precipitation, but the wind chill is supposed to be in the teens at MetLife Stadium on Sunday, which could impact the game. Aaron Rodgers has had a bad season, but I think he's about as healthy as he's been all year. After the bye, he's moving a little bit better. The connection with Devontae Adams has started to click the last couple of weeks. And the Jets, as bad as they've only been blown out 3 times this year. They've been competitive in almost every game. So I do think the Jets will be in this game. I think it will be a competitive game. I think that they will lead with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They've done that a lot this year. The question is whether they can hold it. I don't think they will, because every single time the Jets have had the lead with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they've lost the game. But I do think this is going to be a more competitive game in the Meadowlands this weekend than a lot of people are expecting.
Hey, look, Devontae Adams, man, he kept me in my semifinal playoff matchup last weekend. I got to tip my cap to him. Unfortunately, Younghoe Koo, my Korean brother from another mother, and also from another country, technically, did not help me out. I lost by 2.2 points. Thanks, Younghoe. Appreciate it. All right, guys, I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate everybody out there for coming through for this week's NFL Squad. Of course, all of us are going to be here every single day, 5 days a week, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. So make sure you're checking out Locked On Cowboys, Broncos, Falcons. I almost said Kirk's number. Ravens, Patriots, Jets. And of course, if you just couldn't get enough of me, check out Locked On Commanders as well. We will all see you next time on our respective shows, and the next time we do this NFL Squad, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.